so this is the Motorcraft Carb off the 72 F250. I've cleaned this thing. It's not perfect. So I let it sit in this thing for the top and other parts probably about 2 days, and then the bottom the same thing, 2 days. And then the reason that the top is dirty, top of the bottom is dirty, is because I flipped it over and let it run for about half an hour. So if you look at the top and you see, oh man, look at that. Yep, you're right. I didn't take the time. I forgot to flip it over the other day, and now I want to get it back together because I want to turn it over, and then if I can get it to run, I want it to run. Let's get this carb put back together today. This is just going to be a quick and dirty. I'm not making some fancy step-by-step tutorial for this. This is just so you guys know what's going on with these 2100 carbs. All right, I'm sure there's going to be some experts out there that are going to tell me I'm doing this wrong or whatever. You're probably right. I'm doing it wrong. But I want to get this truck running. This is just a chain in the link of getting the truck to run. Before we get to reassembly or anything like that, I'm going to take my air hose and blow out some of these channels. So when I wash this thing, when I cleaned it, I also washed it off with water, just so everything would get all that cleaner out of it. Now it's important, like this little brass circuit right here, it's important that that's open too. It may look like that's just a plug, but it's not. There's a hole in that. So it's important to get everything blown out and cleaned out. All right, so here are all the parts of the kit. Base gaskets, gaskets for tabs there, or multiple different variations, I believe, because I think mine was... This is gonna be a pro tip for you guys. Always, unless the gasket completely falls apart, if they come apart in even pieces that you can identify, keep these until you're completely done with the project. Now we've torn this apart. We have parts here, obviously, like this one, that don't come in the kit. These do need to be removed when you're rebuilding the carb, because you don't want these to get soaked in solvent or any kind of thing that might actually destroy them. See, this thing moves pretty well. If we have a problem, we might need to try to track down a new one of these, but I think these are such a uncommon failure point that there's no need to include it in the kit. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start at the accelerator pump. All right, so I put this little piece in here, this little flapper valve. All right, so then we need the spring for it to go on here. Now this one is going to be a little bit different. I know they offer a couple different options for these. This one is the original one. This one is the new one. Make sure that's sitting in this area right here. Next is going to be the actual accelerator pump arm here. Always start screws by hand. It'll save you a lot of headache down the road. This is for posterity of keeping this truck as cheap as possible, showing you that you can do this stuff yourself. There's no need to let that truck rot in the backyard. Even if it's rusty, get it running, get it fixed, drive it. Always go crossways on these. The accelerator pump is done. All right, on to the power valve here. From what I've read is the wrong one in these Walker kits. They give you a 7, not an 8 that it's supposed to be. This is what I have. I'm not going to order a different power valve right now, and I just want to drive the truck. When you're looking at this, there is a little shoulder right here that gasket needs to sit on. A little pro tip here for you: if you screw this down and it's not sitting perfect, just wiggle it back and forth until it sits down in there properly, and you have it sitting in that shoulder nicely, so you do not wreck the gasket for the power valve. This is the improper tool to use, but we're going to use it anyways. Just getting it snug. Nothing needs to be overly wrenched on. This is aluminum. Do not over tighten these. Okay, here's the gasket for this. We're going to put it on this way, just like this. Now, one thing, When I was going over these screws are the same as the screws that we just put in for the accelerator pump. I don't like these screws. These do not fit very well. I am going to try to find different screws. I just don't like the way they fit in here. I'm going to go through my parts bin and see if I can find some different screws. Most of what I found, or rather most of what I have laying around, are from Japanese motorcycles that I've had to rebuild the carburetors on. I was able to get screws that are right. They're a little bit shorter than what I wanted. You can see they're not going to be getting much spread in there, but this is what I have. This is what I have to work with. Hopefully it will not be an issue. These are fitting nicely though, and much better than those hex head screws. We have the power valve installed, done. So what I do with these is where they're set when I pull the carb apart, I count how many turns it takes to get it to seat. This one here was 3 3/4 turns. That may or may not be correct. I have seen a couple of videos about this 2100. They start off at 1.5 turns out. This was 3 3/4 turns out. It's a 390. I don't know if that's different than what, say, another motor that this was on, maybe like a 360 or whatever, that they start at 1.5. I'm gonna set mine back to where I found them. This is just gonna be a reverse of what I do when I pull them out. So we're running it in all the way until it stops. Okay, we're stopped right there. We don't need to go any tighter. Now it's just going to be a matter of that 3 1/4 turns out. So this is going to be my starting point. We're going to go half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 1/4. So that would be 3 3/4. Here we're at a different angle on this one, but we're going to do it the same way. And another 1/4. That is all done. This is all done. We can move on to the inside. All right, I don't know what these are called. I don't know the proper term for it. So here's the gasket for it. Initially, when I was doing my fitting, I found when this located, this gasket stuck out right here and needed to be trimmed a little bit. This is the way that I prefer to do it because then I can line it up properly. I'm gonna stick that gasket in there roughly to begin with. You can see it doesn't fit that well, but this little assembly will seat it properly. Now here's where the fun came in originally. This little check ball needs to go back in this hole right here. Yes, the screw hole. Then you need this little rod goes in here. That little rod sits in there just as a weight for that check ball. This bolt that goes in here has a hole in the center for that weight. So we're gonna set this assembly in here. You don't need to worry about that rod yet, but what you will have to do when you get this in here, kind of give it a shake around, try to get that rod. Not everything I do works perfectly every time. Little aluminum rod. I'm gonna pull that out, seat that back in there, put this little rod in here, then quickly go down. Don't turn the carburetor upside down. You're gonna lose that check ball that you put in there. Not forgetting that you need this plate on here to cover these little jets here. No gorilla tightening, just tight enough to seat it. That's it for everything there. We're gonna go on to the jets and the bowl and all of that fun. First thing I'm gonna do is the seat for the needle and seat for the float. I'm gonna put that in first. That is a 3/8. Just wanna snug it up, good. Now this one didn't have a screen like some of the earlier ones had. I don't know if there's a filter somewhere else on that truck. It's something we're gonna have to look into down the road. All right, now with the jets, I have a little trick that I'd like to do. Makes it a lot easier. Taking this, turning the carb upside down, sticking it in there, and then screwing the jet in. A lot of guys will say to do this by hand. Yep, do it by hand, but this is just an easier way to do it, rather than setting these down in here and trying to thread those in. If you know what you're doing, you're not going to strip it out. A little bit of care goes a long way. Those are tapered, so just give them a snug up and they will sit in there properly. Jets are in. On to the next is going to be the float in here. Now you will need to set the float properly. This is the one that came in this truck. It's a poly one. I don't see any issues with it. There's no cracks, there's no nothing. It looks good. Don't forget this, you're gonna need this little clip for the needle here. This needle goes on here like this, and then goes into your seat, sits down, and then you just need to clip this rod over onto that other piece. There. That clip is on. It sits down in this little ring on the seat. I do know from research, this is 29/64 to the top of this float here. If you're looking at this carburetor, looks like a smiley face, doesn't it? You should be even with the machine top surface. That's a good starting point, because getting exactly 29/64 is going to be a problem. They do include, this is in 30 seconds, so you're gonna have to adjust a little bit. 29/64, you could go to you might go under, so 28/64 is gonna be 14/30 seconds. Just be careful, don't want fuel running out of your bowl. And this one needs to go down just a little bit. So what you want to do is just push down gently on this just to adjust it a little bit. If you feel a little bit of tension, if you're ever concerned about this, push it down a little bit, double check it. We are at, you don't want to push down on this too hard, you just want to push till it's seated. We are right at 14. We're at right at 14/30 seconds, so we're gonna stay there. Now if I can try to show this to you better visually, you can see how when this hits the seat, pretty much even with the machined surface. It's a little high right now. We went to 14/30 seconds, adjusting it down just a little bit. So it should be good to go. This has a little keyed spot in there that you're gonna wanna get this on first. I messed up already. You need to put this on over this. You can pull, I think they include this little thing here to get it off of here. Taking this down and putting it back on here. We need to put the spring in, but I just wanted to make sure that we had it sit down where we needed it. Aligned here, it just doesn't want to stay aligned. The skinny end. Now remember guys, I said I am not the definitive Motorcraft 2100 guy. This may be wrong and I may be screwing up your carburetor, but hopefully I'm just screwing up mine. Make sure that this functions properly. You will need the wrench for this one, so I'm just getting these snugged up right now. Fiddly because this thing is in your way. So usually the biggest problem with parts and repairs is the moron on the end of the tool. We're good, we're all sealed up there. There, the top's done. We can put the top back on. Now this is going to take a few weeks for me to get out, edit, all that stuff. So if I'm doing something wrong, yell at me in the comments, but I probably already figured it out by then because it was screwed up and didn't work. If you're like me and an idiot, you might have dropped your carburetor when you brought it into the garage. This goes in here too. This also holds down cross tighten, and we're just cinching up right now. This carburetor is rebuilt and ready to go back on that truck. I'm going to be deleting that little piece that runs through the carb base where the hot line comes out of the thermostat, goes around to the carb plate, heats up underneath the carb, goes back. Here is the choke assembly. Alright guys, thanks for stopping into GXT. More projects to come. We're gonna continue on with the F250. We're gonna get it rolled over in the next video.